Hello, my name is Andrea Holmes. I'm a registered dietitian with the Prostate Cancer Supportive Care Program. Today, you're attending the Nutrition and Prostate Cancer Education session. We would like to acknowledge collaborations with a variety of organizations, including the Ministry of Health, Doctors of BC, as well as a variety of donations over the years that have made this program possible. The nutrition module is one module belonging to the Prostate Cancer Supportive Care Program. There are a number of different modules offered, which you can see listed in this slide here. If you're interested in attending any of these modules, you can contact our program to make arrangements. So in today's session, we're talking about the benefits of eating well with prostate cancer, foods or nutrients of interest for prostate cancer, and symptom management. How you eat is important, but there isn't a one-size-fits-all diet for people living with prostate cancer. Some people joining the session may be newly diagnosed with prostate cancer, that is of an early stage. Other people might have been living with prostate cancer for many years. Prostate cancer is also treated with a range of different therapies, and these have different nutritional implications. As an individual, you also have unique nutrition needs that affect your food choices. Not all the information shared today may be appropriate for your specific needs. An individualized approach to nutrition is recommended. You can book a one-on-one nutrition appointment with the dietitian with the prostate program or possibly through your treatment center for individualized guidance. Now, cancer can cause changes to how the body stores and uses food and nutrients, especially when cancer involves hormones. Changes in hormone levels combined with inflammation can impact metabolism. Treatments for prostate cancer, such as hormone therapy or androgen deprivation therapy, can also cause changes to body composition with loss of muscle or gain in fat stores. This, combined with a Western diet, a diet that is rich in animal foods and highly processed foods, along with low physical activities, can further worsen those situations, ultimately leading to increased risk for other cancers, other health conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and osteoporosis, affecting your overall vitality and longevity. Today, we're going to be focusing on the whole food, plant-based diet to help minimize some of these impacts of treatment and for your overall vitality and longevity. Whole food plant-based diet combined with physical activity will give you the best health outcomes. In addition, we're going to be discussing the benefits of healthy eating. This will be woven through today's presentation, but just to highlight a little bit here, healthy eating is about feeling your best. Beyond your physical body, we're thinking about wanting you to feel confident with your food choices, reducing stress, helping to alleviate some of the misinformation and confusion you might be encountering. When we're eating well, we can also improve or maintain our overall health. So here we're looking at reducing the risk of chronic conditions such as heart disease and diabetes that are common in the population. We also want to look at the role of nutrition to help us heal and recover and manage the effects of cancer treatments, including the effects on our muscles, our bowels, and our appetite. We're also going to look at the role specific foods might have in slowing the growth of prostate cancer or the chance of prostate cancer returning. This is an evolving area of research with some studies suggesting benefits for specific foods, and we're going to highlight those today. When we discuss an anti-cancer diet, we are focusing on 4 key areas: eating more plant-based foods and making sure that those foods are minimally processed. We call this a whole food plant-based diet. So within that whole food plant-based focus, we're looking at less animal foods compared to what is seen in a typical Western diet and looking at the quality of the animal foods we eat. We also want to ensure our diet includes healthy fats and minimizes those fats that might be contributing to heart disease. Today, we're going to break down each of these areas. So what is a whole food plant-based diet? In its broadest definition, it means that you eat more plant foods than you do animal foods. So plant foods include your vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds. Eating a plant-based diet, though, does not need to mean that you eliminate all animal foods. Animal foods such as dairy products, meats, fish, and poultry can be included in moderation. The goal, though, is to eat more plant foods and fewer animal foods. So what we like to say is think of the plant foods as the centerpiece in your meal rather than the animal foods. When you create your diet around fruits, vegetables, and other plant foods, it does leave room for moderate amounts of animals. The other important piece to consider as you adopt a more plant-based focus is the word whole foods. Here we're thinking of choosing foods that are minimally processed. So foods that are more like they were actually grown or harvested. Foods without a lot of added sugars, salts, or fats. A plate that regularly includes a lot of plant foods that are highly processed, such as fried foods, sweets and pastries, even from plant origin, isn't going to be a healthy diet. Why is it so important to eat plant foods? Plant foods offer many powerful health benefits. They have been shown to lower the risk for cancers and many other chronic diseases. They can help us maintain a healthy body weight. Plant foods provide a wide variety of vitamins and minerals, but also naturally occurring plant compounds called phytochemicals or phytonutrients. Plant foods are also a rich source of fiber. Fiber is only found in plant foods, not in animal foods. We want to highlight a little bit more on these phytonutrients. So phytonutrients are special plant compounds that give plants their distinctive colors, aroma, and taste. And they have been shown to have anti-cancer activity in animal and test tube studies. So all plant foods are sources of these phytochemicals. And sometimes we talk about eating the rainbow because we see that the colorful phytochemicals showing up in our fruits and vegetables, such as the red in tomatoes or the white in the cauliflower. But we want to extend this rainbow beyond just our fruits and vegetables and think about other plant foods, such as red lentils, the dark, rich, earthy colors of our whole grains. These are all signifying different types of phytochemicals found in foods, of which there are thousands. The other powerful benefit from plant foods is their fiber content. Fiber is only found in plant foods, none in animal sources. Fiber is the undigestible part of plant foods, and it passes through your digestive system, providing benefits to the colon as well as the healthy bacteria that live within your colon. The bacteria in our colon we call our microbiome, and there is a growing area of research to understand how the microbiome impacts our health. Although we're learning more here, what we can say is that the healthiest microbiome comes from eating a mainly plant-based diet, focusing on those whole food sources. Now, just to highlight, some people living with prostate cancer may be experiencing bowel issues due to some of the treatments. If you are sensitive to the fiber in your diet, you can work with a dietitian to learn which plant foods are going to help the most without giving you excessive fiber or fiber that you can better tolerate. Now, studying food is complex. Food itself is complex. Let's look at broccoli as an example. Broccoli belongs to a family of vegetables called the cruciferous vegetable family. And they provide a phytochemical called glucosinolates. And research and laboratory studies suggest those compounds have powerful anti-cancer effects, including reducing inflammation, helping to encourage natural cell death, slowed cancer cell growth, which sounds extremely promising when it comes to an anti-cancer diet. But we really need to dig deeper beyond the laboratory studies and find out what happens in people. In studies in people, what we're trying to follow is groups of people and asking them about how much of certain foods they eat. Now, you can imagine it's probably hard to recall how many times you ate broccoli weekly in the past 3 months, 6 months, or a year. So this type of research isn't ideal in fully understanding how much of a food groups of people eat. Another level of research will measure blood levels of certain compounds found in plant foods, such as carotenoids, which can be a marker of fruit and vegetable intake. So this gives us a better look at what people eat and how much of the substances from the food is actually entering the body. Now, this further research is a bit confusing because we don't always know if cooking the food has an effect on different levels. So as you can imagine, it can be very difficult to determine one particular component of a food having an effect in the body. And people don't eat individual food components. We eat whole foods as part of a mixed diet. So going back to the broccoli, we see broccoli is not just a source of glucosinolates, but it's also a source of fiber, various vitamins, minerals, and these all work together to have powerful effects in the body. In fact, research is telling us we want to move away from that very reductionist perspective of looking at individual foods and nutrients for cancer protection and thinking about whole food and whole diet. This has been a little bit of the science background on why we want to eat a diet rich in plant foods, but now we want to get a little bit more practical and think about how you can make this happen in your everyday life. Your plate is a powerful tool that you can be using. Each time you eat, you have an opportunity to take a look at how your meal compares to a healthy, balanced plate. This image is from Canada's Food Guide, and it gives us a guide on what a good balance would be. So a healthy, balanced diet would look like a plate half filled with vegetable or fruit, quarter with protein-rich foods, and a quarter with whole grain foods. We're going to look at each of these components of the plate in more detail around what are some of the better choices to be including. Within the fruit and vegetables, so this is the largest part of our plate, half of our plate, we want to focus here on plenty. So half of the plate, plenty. More important than any type of what you're eating when it comes to fruit and vegetable is simply that you're eating a lot of them. Within your plenty portion, try for variety. So going back to the rainbow concept, each color signifying different types of phytochemicals in foods. Within our fruit and vegetable group, in the variety thinking, we want you to focus on more of the non-starchy vegetables. So non-starchy vegetable is everything other than potato, yam, or corn. The starchy vegetables can be included. I'm not saying don't eat potato, yam, and corn, but they don't give you the same cancer protective benefits as all of your other vegetables. So think of broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, tomatoes, onions, peppers, green beans, leafy greens, any other vegetable other than potato, yam, and corn. Eating within this range of foods, you can include fresh, frozen, or canned. All would be great choices. You know, the frozen vegetables really these days are picked at their prime. They have great nutrient retention and they have very little food waste. So if you haven't been accustomed to eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, starting with frozen can be a great way to minimize that food waste that might happen when we get a little bit excited and buy large quantities of fresh produce, but don't actually get around to eating them and they spoil in our fridge. Within the canned group, look for ones without added sugars or salts. Many varieties of vegetables now are no salt added, particularly your canned tomato products, which would be an excellent choice to include. In this area, the one that I will recommend limiting would be juice. Fruit juices or even vegetable juices do concentrate the nutrition found in the fresh variety, but especially when it comes to fruit juice, it also concentrates all of the natural sugars, which equals all of the calories. So you can imagine it's going to take quite a few pieces of fresh fruit, such as 3 or 4 oranges, to make a half a cup of juice. You wouldn't usually eat 3 or 4 pieces of oranges all at once, and if you did, it would take you quite a while to consume that nutrition. The half a cup of juice can usually be downed in just a few seconds. So you're exposing your body to quite a bit of sugar, even though natural, very quickly without the blunting effect of the fiber found in that whole fruit. Juice might be an exception here, again, if you're having an issue with fiber. And if you don't like to eat your fresh fruits or vegetables, another option could be blending. Blending, such as in a smoothie, at least we're retaining all of the naturally occurring fiber found in your fresh pieces. Okay, I just want to highlight a couple of vegetables that are of more interest when it comes to prostate health. And one is the cruciferous family. So we talked about broccoli a little bit earlier. And within that cruciferous vegetable family, beyond broccoli, we have cabbage, cauliflower, kale, arugula, radishes, all of those kind of vegetables that have a bit of a spicy taste to them, and often a bit of a sulfur smell, particularly when they're overcooked. That sulfur smell is that phytochemical I mentioned called glucosinolates, the one that in laboratory studies is showing a lot of anti-cancer effects and potential benefits for prostate. So that's the laboratory research. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of research in people. There's a few studies that have been done. And one study did find that when people ate 1 half-cup serving daily, they had a significantly lower risk of progression of prostate cancer compared to people who ate very few cruciferous vegetables. So I mentioned before that the type of research that follows groups of people and asks about what they eat isn't perfect. We like better research where we ask people to do something, or a group to do something and a group not to do something. And there is a small study that has looked at broccoli in about 50 people. And in this study, people were asked to eat a soup that had an enhanced level of the glucosinolates, so that compound I mentioned from broccoli. And they followed these people after 12 months, and they found that people who ate a broccoli soup that had higher levels of glucosinolates had fewer changes in genes in the prostate tissue, suggesting health benefit. This is, again, just one small study, rather short term. It certainly doesn't prove that broccoli will help slow the progression of prostate cancer, but it is promising and interesting research. Based on these few studies and the fact that we know broccoli is a very healthy food in general, we do encourage people to try to include cruciferous vegetables regularly, even daily if possible, in your diet. Another food of interest within the fruit and vegetable family is tomato, owing to its being rich source of lycopene. Lycopene is a carotenoid, so one of those phytochemicals that gives food a natural red color. Beyond tomato, you'll find lycopene in watermelon, apricot, and guavas, so other red colored fruits. But tomato tends to be the main source in the typical Canadian diet. Lycopene is better absorbed from food when the food is cooked, so a cooked tomato product, and particularly if there is a little bit of a fat, like such as an olive oil, along with your tomato. So the cell study research, so this is the laboratory research, suggests strong cancer protective properties from lycopene. The human research, though, hasn't proven out to show that strong relationship, and it may be that we just need longer studies. We need to tease out whether lycopene is beneficial for certain types of prostate cancer compared to others. Or it may be that we need to have lycopene and tomato in combination with other foods to have a particular health benefit. Again, not confirmed research here, but some potentially positive findings for tomato as a source of lycopene for prostate health. For that reason, we do encourage people to try and include tomato products in their diet on a regular basis. We do not, though, recommend lycopene supplements at this time. Moving on to another part of our plate, the grain group. So the goal here is to have about a quarter of our plate as whole grains at most meals. Grains are rich sources of carbohydrates, and carbohydrates have sort of gotten a bad rap over many years. But carbohydrates actually or whole grains are a key component to a cancer protective diet. But we really do need to focus here on quality, looking for the whole grain, and the quantity, not needing really more than a quarter of our plate from this food group. So whole grains contain 3 parts. The outer bran layer, this is the fiber-rich layer, the germ layer, sort of the center of the grain, as well as the inner endosperm layer, which is your main energy component. You'll see that the phytochemicals, so those are the cancer fighters, along with the fiber, are in that germ and bran layer. In a typical milling process, the grain is stripped of the bran and germ, which means we're removing those cancer-fighting components and leaving behind just the energy component or the endosperm, the refined grain. We usually then take that refined grain and grind it up into a powder, and we use that to create our nice, soft, fluffy white breads. This radically changes how our body processes the food. So not only are we not getting those cancer fighters in the whole grain, but because the grain has been ground up, it is quickly digested within the body. And this may have some implications around our blood sugar levels, the needs for insulin, and this is another area that might be of importance, particularly if anyone's living with diabetes. So I do encourage people to think about the grains you eat, think about your breakfast meals, your lunch, your dinner, and look at what those grains appear. Is it white bread most of the time, white pasta, white rice? To improve your health, really consider ways you can swap out those white grains for whole grains. Can you try brown rice instead of white rice, or maybe quinoa or farro instead? When you're shopping for breads, look for breads that give at least 4 grams of fiber per slice. Most likely, they will have been made with whole grains. And now the remaining quarter of our plate this is where we find our protein foods. So protein foods are an essential nutrient to our health. Protein has a number of functions in the body, including involved in your immune system, maintaining your muscle mass. It's essential for helping you heal and repair. And during cancer treatments, we need more protein than at other times. So on this slide, we've broadly divided protein foods into 2 categories: plant-based sources and animal-based sources. So plant-based sources being things such as our legumes, so our beans, dried peas, and lentils, soy foods, nuts, and seeds. And animal-based protein foods being your fish, chicken, eggs, dairy products, and meats. Eating a variety of plant-based proteins and animal-based foods, if you wish, is the important way to get the nutrients your body needs, such as iron, zinc, B12, and calcium. We do encourage people to include plant-based proteins often. They are providing anti-cancer nutrients. With your plant-based proteins, things such as nuts and seeds, some tips here. About a 1/4 cup of nuts most days is a good portion for many people. Having higher amounts can provide extra calories that some of us don't need. And when choosing nuts and seeds, look for unsalted varieties. For your beans and lentils, canned beans are an excellent option. They're nutritious and a bit more convenient than dried beans. But don't hesitate, if you want to get involved with using dry beans, to take the time to soak them and cook them. Some people really enjoy their texture when they're done that way. When selecting soy foods, choose minimally processed soy foods. Think of unsweetened soy milk or tofu, rather than some of the processed soy replacement meats that are available. Many of those processed soy foods have a lot of extra sodium added to them. When it comes to your animal-based foods, again, quality is really important here. So low-fat dairy products, lean meats, fish are going to be good choices. We want to minimize processed meats in the diet, as well as avoid excessive intakes of red meats. I'm just going to highlight soy foods a little bit. Soy foods have been widely studied in prostate cancer. There has been a lot of interest originating from early research that showed a lower risk of, or a lower incidence of prostate cancer in Asian countries. And this was observed many, many years ago. So that led to research in test tubes and animals trying to see if soy was the component in the Asian diet that was having that benefit. Unfortunately, the research didn't pan out to show us that soy itself was was the preventative factor, but we did learn that soy is a very healthy food, is a great protein replacement to animal foods, and is safe to consume. So if you wish to include soy in your diet, it can be included as desired. When it comes to research in progression of prostate cancer, unfortunately also the results have been fairly mixed here, without a lot of strong data to say that specifically including soy in your diet will help to slow the progression of prostate cancer. But it may have long-term health benefits for reducing heart disease risk when used as a replacement for meat or other animal foods in the diet. Many people with prostate cancer ask if it's okay to eat red meat and processed meat. Red meat includes beef, pork, lamb, and goat, and processed meats includes things such as bacon, sausage, hot dogs, most deli meats, any meat that has been preserved with nitrates or smoking. Red meat can be a significant source of artery clogging fats, and some research has linked that to increased risk of dying after prostate cancer diagnosis. The impacts on prostate cancer progression, though, overall are not clear. When it comes to red meats, we recommend, if you choose to eat them, to follow general cancer prevention recommendations, and those are to limit your intake of red meats to not more than 500 grams or 18 ounces in a week. We also recommend avoiding processed meats. Excessive intakes of red meat, so greater than 500 grams in a week, and intake of any amount of processed meats has been linked to colorectal cancer. Now, within our protein group, is it okay to eat fish? What about chicken, dairy, and eggs when it comes to prostate cancer? Again, fairly limited amount of studies of good quality available here. The research available suggests that fish might be linked to lower risk of progression. We do encourage people to eat fish a couple times a week. Fish is also, especially the fatty fish such as salmon and sardines, herring, is a good source of the healthy omega-3 fats, so important for heart health. The relationship between poultry and prostate cancer, fairly inconclusive, but suggests that skinless poultry is safe and beneficial, particularly as a substitute to red meat. But we do recommend you don't eat the poultry with skin on it. When it comes to eggs, also again, fairly limited research after diagnosis. One study found no link. Another study found that people who ate the highest amount of eggs, 5 in a week, compared to those who ate the least, had increased risk of recurrence. So when we see mixed results from studies, some showing no connection, others showing some connection, and we only have a few studies, it's very difficult to make specific recommendations. Generally for eggs, I would say, an egg a day on average for most people is fine. When it comes to dairy products, higher fat dairy has been linked to increased risk of dying after diagnosis. Lower fat dairy, such as 1% or 2% milk in moderation, so you can go back to your plate as a guide, can be included if desired. All right, so let's bring this back together. Returning to our plate. What we're aiming for is half the plate filled with vegetable or fruits, choosing plenty of those non-starchy vegetables, thinking about tomato and broccoli or other cruciferous vegetables most days of the week. Aim for a variety of different colors, and that might not be on a daily basis, but through the weeks and seasons you see those colors showing up. Include whole grains. So look at your diet, search out where you have refined grains, and swap in some whole grains such as oats, barley, brown rice, cracked wheat. Make sure you include protein with your meals. Consistently with all meals is going to be one of the best ways to maintain your muscle mass. Choose plant-based proteins often, such as soy foods, beans, or lentils, and consider eating fish a couple times a week. When you eat poultry, remove the skin, and if you do choose to eat red meats, less than 500 grams in the week. So let's look at what this might be visually in some real kinds of meals. Whole food plant-based eating. What does that look like? In the first image, top left corner, we see a plate filled with a little bit of chicken, so about a quarter of the plate, half the plate filled with a large salad containing a variety of different vegetables, and in this case, the starchy component is a potato instead of the whole grain. On the right-hand upper corner, we have a lentil soup. So this is your protein, a large leafy green salad, and a piece of whole grain bread. In the lower left-hand corner, a grain-based salad. So using a grain such as quinoa, along with black beans for the protein and a variety of different vegetables. And then in the lower right-hand corner, a multi-grain rice. So black rice with wild rice and red rice, along with stir-fried vegetables such as bok choy, snow peas, and peppers, with a small amount of chicken for protein. Instead of chicken, we could have used tofu as a nice protein choice in that dish. Plant-based meals based on whole foods are not as foreign as you think they may be. You know, you can make small changes to increase the plant base in your diet, such as if you're having a breakfast burrito, adding some black beans. If you're having a salad for your meal, throwing in a few chickpeas or a sprinkle of pumpkin seeds. If you're making something like a chili, reduce the beef and increase the beans. Snack on nuts and seeds instead of cheese and crackers. There's small, simple swaps you can make in many meals and snacks to increase your plant base. For more meal ideas, you can check out these links, including the lentil shepherd's pie and grain bowl, which are available from the BC Cancer. They have a YouTube video showing you how to prepare these dishes. The Nourish Eat Well tips for men with prostate cancer includes a variety of different recipes, and Cook for Your Life, as well as healthy recipes from the American Institute for Cancer Research, all great sources. So returning again to those pillars that we spoke about, we've talked about plant-based eating, and now we're going to really focus on the fats. We do need to include healthy fats in our diet. Fats provide an important source of energy, as well as involved in keeping our cells healthy, our immune system working well, and brain function. So when we look at this image here, we generally see plant-based sources. Your nuts, your seeds, avocado, think of olive oil. The exception here being fish. Fish is a good source of healthy fats. I want to contrast this with this slide. These are all animal source foods, exception being the coconut oil. So these are saturated fats. Saturated fats are hard, generally at room temperature, and these tend to increase our blood lipid levels that can contribute to clogged arteries. When you look at this image and think now about the types of foods we've been talking about eating more of, our plant-based foods, and those that we've been talking about eating less of, what we can see is that simply by focusing on the whole food plant-based focus, using our plate as a guide, we can naturally achieve a good quality fat intake based on most of these healthy, heart-healthy fats. I'm going to talk a little bit more here about the coconut oil because I know many people have questions. Coconut oil is highly marketed as a healthy choice, and it might be slightly healthier for you than butter, but it's not going to be a better choice than using something like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil, and that would be the recommended choice if you're using an oil in cooking. Now, thinking about the other focus, although we've touched a lot on eating whole foods, really want to draw attention to reducing the highly processed food in our diet. Now, the problem isn't that we eat these foods at all, it's just that we're eating too much of them. Almost 50% of the calories in a typical Canadian diet is now coming from processed foods. Processed foods we talked about generally have been stripped of their phytochemicals, their natural cancer fighters, and then loaded up with too much sugars and salts and fats. Eating too much of them not only reduces the cancer protective quality in our diet, but it can contribute excess calories. And we know that carrying excess weight on the body increases the risk for many chronic health conditions, but it might also be associated with poorer health after prostate cancer diagnosis. So highly processed foods, some examples, sugar-sweetened drinks. That would be one of the big contributors of calories. Candy, ice cream, cookies, cakes, instant noodles, most of the foods that we think of as snack foods, many sugar-sweetened breakfast cereals. We'd also include in here those processed meats. These would all be examples of highly processed foods. So I want to be realistic. I'm not saying that you should never eat these foods, but I'm just wanting you to take a look at your diet and think about how often they occur. If they occur once or twice a week, they're probably not having a huge impact on your health. But if, the muffin from the drive-through is a daily occurrence, the pizza is something you grab at lunch most days, fast food the other day, these things can add up really quickly. Think of ways that you can reduce the frequency, or think of ways you can reduce the portion. It can have a significant impact on your health. Is anyone using the food labels to help inform their food choices? Food labels are a great tool we have within the grocery store to help us make choices between different products. I'm just going to review briefly today how you can use food labels, but also want to encourage you to look into your local grocery store for a grocery store tour led by a dietitian. That will give you an opportunity for more hands-on experience in reading food labels, particularly the foods that you would typically buy. I'm just going to draw attention to the nutrition facts table, and this provides information on the amount of a portion of food. This is called the serving size, as well as it gives us information called the percent daily value, and then the nutrient list such as the calories, fats, carbohydrate, protein, etc. down the side. If you have chance, you can pause the video now and go grab one of your own packages to look along on some of the foods that you're buying. So let's start by looking at the serving size. So this is found in the upper left-hand area under the bold nutrition facts heading. Now it's important to look at the serving size, particularly when comparing products, to make sure that you're comparing the same serving size, but also when you're thinking about how much of the food you eat. So the serving size is not a recommended portion about how much of the food you should eat. You may eat more or less than the serving listed here. What's important though is if you're eating more, that you would then use that knowledge to do some calculations so you figure out how many calories you're actually getting. So if you eat 2 times the serving, you're going to get 2 times the calories. Perfectly fine. It's just important to know what you're doing when you're understanding the information on the label. On the right-hand side, what I really want you to look more at these days when you're at the grocery store is the percent daily value. So the percent daily value tells you if a food has a little or a lot of a nutrient. When you see a daily value that's 5% or less, it has very little of the nutrient. If you see a 15% or more, it has quite a lot of the nutrient. Now, the percent daily value is based on a reference 2,000 calorie diet. So the percent daily value is not telling you, for example, if you're getting 15% of a certain nutrient, but it's for that full 2,000 calories. You may need more or less calories. So it's like a ruler, just letting you know if a food is high or low in a particular nutrient. You can use the nutrition facts label when comparing different foods. So here an example, cereal A and cereal B. So the serving size is the information on these 2 packages, and it lists about the same amount, pretty close, about 30 grams, 28 and 30 grams, so very similar. They both have 120 calories per serving. And now let's look at the percent daily value to compare these products. Do a quick scan to see what nutrients each product is high and low in. Nutrients you may want to think more about, particularly like fiber when we're looking at cereals. Possibly sodium is another thing you might want to be looking at. But let's just focus a little bit here on the fiber. So cereal A has a significantly higher percent daily value for fiber, and the percent daily value is fairly similar for the other nutrients in these 2 foods. So which one is a healthier choice? Now, for most people, it's probably cereal A because it has more fiber, but remember I mentioned earlier, for some people with prostate cancer, you may be more sensitive to fiber, and this occurs particularly when going through radiation treatments. So if that's the case for you, you might actually be selecting cereal B in this case. So there's not always one right answer in which is the healthier food. We always need to interpret the nutrition information based on our individual needs. Another component on the food label that we can be checking out at the grocery store is the ingredient list. The ingredient list includes all the ingredients that are in the product, and they are listed in order by weight, with the heaviest ingredient listed first and the lightest ingredient listed last. So the ingredient list is a really helpful tool, particularly if you have any food allergies. So you need to identify if a particular culprit is included in a food and something you need to avoid. The other thing I want to mention is on the lower part of this slide, you see the word original and new. Health Canada has transitioned to a new label. And that transition period ended in 2021, so we should be seeing the new label now all the time. And the important change they made here was that manufacturers had to list the sugar ingredients together on a food label. So you see on the original, we have all these different words for sugar scattered throughout the ingredient list. So it doesn't stand out as prominently to note that that particular food includes a lot of sugar in the ingredients. Whereas in the new label, now we see that by weight, the highest ingredient, in fact, in this food is sugar. So I think that's a really good change that Health Canada has made in helping us decipher and making sense of some of that information on that ingredient list. I'm just going to move on now to some common questions that people ask. One is about alcohol. Is it okay to drink alcohol? In fact, the effects of alcohol on prostate cancer progression are really not well understood, but we do know that alcohol increases the risk for many types of cancers. And we have recently received from the government some new guidance on alcohol consumption, seen on the left-hand side of the slide here. The new Canadian guidance is quite strict and much stricter than what we have seen for cancer prevention over the last decade. Cancer prevention guidelines state it is best not to drink alcohol when it comes to cancer prevention. But if you do, the recommendation for male is not more than 2 alcoholic drinks a day. For women, not more than 1. The new Canadian guidelines more stringent, suggesting a much lower level of alcohol consumption. Some general comments about alcohol is, alcohol has a lot of calories in it and no nutritional value. Beyond the health risks, that has some implications possibly for body weight. Alcohol can also affect, so if you're going through cancer treatment, can affect your mucous membrane, so if mouth sensitivity or impact bowel movements might contribute to diarrhea. So I would encourage you to discuss alcohol consumption with your oncologist if you're going through cancer treatment, and then take into consideration the cancer prevention and new Canadian guidance on alcohol and making choices. What about dietary supplements? Again, a very common question, whether people should be taking dietary supplements to help control cancer, to improve energy levels, whether they're safe or they effective. Now, what are they? Dietary supplements can include any sort of vitamin or mineral, multi-complex, natural health products, green powders. These would all be considered natural health products or supplements. They can be found in tablet form, pills, powders, tinctures, a variety of different formats. Antioxidant supplements or nutrients have been considered a key element of reducing cancer risk for many years because of their role in helping to minimize oxidative damage to tissue. And this damage might be something that can contribute to increased risk of cancer or other chronic diseases. The understanding, though, of antioxidants and how they work, how we should get them in our diet has really evolved over the years, from thinking beyond that individual nutrient level to more of the whole food focus. And also that thinking around, if a little is good, more is better, really has changed over the years. So our recommendation now is not to focus on supplements, because with supplements, we can get higher levels that are safe for our body. And supplements, they are identifying, they extract only one component from the food. And we are learning it's that synergy, the interaction between the nutrients and phytochemicals found within the food that's offering us the best protection. That's a general health comment to focus on food, but I do want to draw this back to during treatment time. There's the thought that antioxidant nutrients taken in high levels, which are obtained from supplements, high levels are obtained from supplements, not from eating food. But when taken in high levels, theoretically could protect cancer cells from the work that the cancer therapy is supposed to do in killing those cells. I know on the other hand, there's the other theoretical thought that maybe taking antioxidants also protects your healthy cells so that there's fewer treatment-related side effects. But the general consensus is that we want those cancer treatments to be as effective as possible, and most cancer organizations do recommend that you avoid antioxidant supplements during treatment, but continue to eat a diet rich in a variety of antioxidant-rich foods, such as berries, vegetables, green tea, whole nuts and seeds, as a way to get those nutrients such as vitamin C, selenium, vitamin E. If you have consideration of using various supplements, I do encourage you to review with your oncologist or a pharmacist at your cancer treatment facility to, just to clarify if there could be any interactions between the treatments you're undergoing. Now, some of these thoughts on why we recommend avoiding supplements have come out of various trials, and I want to share one with you today because it's relevant to prostate cancer. The selenium and vitamin E cancer prevention trial, or we call the SELECT trial, started in 2001, and it enrolled a huge number of people across North America, including representation here in British Columbia. So it involved 35,000 people. In this study, people were asked to take selenium or vitamin E supplements alone or in combination, doses being 200 micrograms per day of selenium or 400 international units of vitamin E. The intent of the study and the reason it started was the hope that taking these supplements would help prevent prostate cancer. Unfortunately, in early review of the data, it was shown that they were not being effective for that, and they were actually increasing the risk of prostate cancer. This study was stopped early. In further analysis of the data, what they discovered is that when people already had enough selenium within the body and then took selenium supplements, they had an increased risk for prostate cancer. So this helps us understand that while we're very well aware that not getting enough of a nutrient is associated with deficiency, but we can get too much as well. And the too much can vary depending on our own individual nutrient status to begin with, something we may not always know well what our own individual levels are. With a further analysis from this study, there was a look at people who had prostate cancer and were taking selenium supplements. In that research, it was also shown that taking selenium increased the risk of dying after prostate cancer diagnosis. So for this reason, we do not recommend that you take selenium or vitamin E supplements, and that you try to obtain, and it can easily be done, sufficient intakes from a variety of food choices. You don't need very much selenium. It's 55 micrograms a day, which you can achieve by eating whole grains, nuts and seeds, and some animal foods such as dairy products, fish, shellfish, meat, and eggs. So very much what we've been talking about, focusing on including whole grains and moderate amounts of animal foods if you wish. Vitamin E, the recommendation here is 15 milligrams per day, is also a very low amount, can be easily achieved by eating dark leafy greens, nuts, sunflower seeds, wheat germ, again the germ layer found in that whole grain, and natural sources of fat, again nuts and seeds being a good source. So you don't require and are recommended not to use selenium or vitamin E supplements. When it comes to dietary supplements for slowing the growth of prostate cancer or the chance of it returning, we do not have any convincing evidence at this time that any single supplement is going to be effective for that purpose. But we do have concern that some supplements may increase the risk for prostate cancer. For this reason, again, we do not recommend supplements for the purpose of slowing the growth or the recurrence. We do, though, recommend supplements for some specific health reasons. Sometimes it's not possible to obtain enough nutrients just from eating a variety of foods, particularly when you're going through cancer treatment and your diet may be limited to certain foods or your appetite is poor. In that case, a multivitamin may be a good top-up to your diet. Omega-3s, if you don't eat fish or other omega-3 food sources such as walnuts or flax seeds. Calcium may be needed to make sure you're getting enough to keep your bones strong. Certainly, if you're going through treatment, we do recommend review of any supplement use with a pharmacist at your treatment center. And if you're not going through treatment, do some research on dietary supplements. It is clear that even though they're natural, they may not always be safe. All right, so moving on to discussing some of the treatment-related side effects and their nutritional implications. Bone health is a really important consideration, generally as we age, but for people on hormone therapy or androgen deprivation therapy. Bone is a living tissue that's constantly being broken down and rebuilt, and we need to give the body sufficient amount of nutrients, particularly calcium and vitamin D, protein, to rebuild our bones. With the hormone therapy, the breakdown process can be accelerated. So it really emphasizes the importance of getting sufficient amount of calcium and vitamin D in your diet. The amount of calcium that is recommended if you're age 19 to 70 years, not on hormone therapy, is 1,000 milligrams per day. For those over the age of 70, 1,200 milligrams of calcium is recommended daily. If you're taking hormone therapy at any age, we recommend 1,200 milligrams of calcium daily. We do not want to get more than 2,000 milligrams of calcium daily. And we encourage you to get your calcium from food first. I know many people are hearing the message from their oncologists about the importance of getting enough calcium when on hormone therapy. And when I see people, I often see that people are taking 1,200 milligrams of calcium from supplements, but didn't think about how much they're already getting from their diet. So food first, especially when we look at the calcium content of some foods, such as soy beverage, about 300 milligrams per cup, or most dairy foods in a serving, also close to 300 milligrams. If you have a couple servings of those a day, you're already getting 600. Thinking back to the target of 1,200, half of your needs already there. If you're taking 1,200 milligrams from supplement, you're getting pretty close to that upper threshold of 2,000 milligrams. So a review of your food choices to assess how much you're already getting from a dietary source. And then if changing diet isn't an option to meet your needs, then we can look at using supplements just to top up your intake to make sure you're getting what you need without getting too much. When it comes to vitamin D, most people will require a supplement. The dietary sources of vitamin D in the Canadian diet are fairly minimal, naturally occurring in fish and egg yolk. And it's also the sunshine vitamin, but we don't really make enough through sun exposure from October through April to really count on getting vitamin D that way. Also, the threshold between what is too much and what you need is quite large here, so taking a supplement in the range of 400 to 1,000 international units a day. You can look at this screen, the slide, to see the recommended daily amounts based on your age. So the 600 to 1,000 will meet your needs without putting you too close to that upper threshold of 4,000 international units a day. Another treatment-related side effect that many people suffer with are hot flashes or flushes, the sudden feeling of warmth within your body when on hormone therapies. The severity definitely can vary to really troublesome to quite minimal. The dietary management, I would say, is somewhat limited here, and so it is really important to discuss this side effect with your doctor if you're experiencing it. If you are experiencing it, you can keep a food and symptom journal, which might help you identify some food triggers. If you find a particular food or drink that is making your hot flushes worse, you can try avoiding that for a few days. Again, monitor your symptoms to see if there's any improvement. If there's no significant improvement and you've been avoiding a food that you really quite enjoy, I don't think there's value in continuing to avoid that food. Common food triggers are hot foods and drinks, spicy foods, caffeine, and alcohol. But I think it can be quite individual here in which foods might be triggers, so the journal is a good tool that you can use. Another side effect of treatment is diarrhea or loose, frequent bowel movements. This can occur with the radiation treatments to the pelvic area, usually seen after about 10 treatments. Some more urgency with the bowels or increased frequency or looser stools. If you're starting to have those symptoms during radiation treatments, first step would be to avoid taking any laxatives if you were on those. And then reducing the fiber in your diet. So fibrous foods, we've been talking about eating more of those, right, in the whole food perspective. Reducing your fiber for the management of diarrhea is a temporary diet. So you're not going to have any long-term negative health effects by reducing the plant-based in a short time frame, such as over 5 weeks or so. After the diarrhea settles, bowels start to normalize, you're going to add the fiber back for your long-term health benefit. You can also avoid bowel stimulants such as caffeine, spicy foods, very large or greasy meals, alcohol or sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols are a non-nutritive sweetener used to give sweetness to things such as gums and candies, so you can watch out for that. Also important, if you're having diarrhea, drink plenty of fluid, 6 to 8 cups of liquid daily. You can find some further information on low fiber food choices on the BC Cancer website, bccancer.bc.ca, and this booklet available to download will give information on high fiber foods to limit and lower fiber foods that you're going to tolerate best. We've talked about a lot of different things today, and as I mentioned, each of you are individuals. There's not going to be one right place or one thing that you're going to need to change in your diet for your best health. Everyone is starting at a different place. I'd like you to think about if there's anything you would like to do for your health in the next week or two. Maybe 1 or 2 things stands out to you. If that is the case, think about more specifically how you can make it happen in your life. For example, if you felt like, wow, I don't eat a lot of fruits or vegetables. If I look at my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they're kind of spotty on the plate. So if you set a goal for yourself to eat more fruits and vegetables, how can you make that goal more specific? Can you think about a particular meal that you would focus on? For example, breakfast. So a more specific goal might be, I will include 1/2 cup of frozen fruit with my breakfast each day. When are you going to start this, and what might you need to do to get started? Maybe you need to add that fruit to your grocery shopping list. Once you decide something that you're going to work on, give yourself some time and monitor how it goes over that time. Is it very normal as we make dietary change to lapse back into our old ways and catch ourselves and get back on track again? And I really encourage people to see those lapses as really positive learning opportunities where you can refine those changes and make them work best for your life. The goal is to make small changes over time that are sustainable. Sustainable habits, even small, over time can have a very powerful benefit on your health. Feel free to connect with us to book a one-on-one appointment for any assistance on making dietary changes. For further information, you can also contact Canadian Cancer Society for general cancer information. For individual food questions, you're not looking for more of an in-depth nutrition assessment that you can access through our program. But if you have just specific, general, how much fiber is in food XYZ, you can reach out to a service like HealthLink BC. Their phone number is 811, and you can speak to a dietitian there Monday through Friday. If you would like to book a nutrition one-on-one or to enroll with any of our other modules in the program, you can contact our program coordinator, and you can see her number here on our slide. Thank you so much.